Hey guys, Liam here from Primal Nomad, hope you're doing well. Today I'm actually going to be showcasing a new knife that I've got, and it was made by a really good friend, Robin. I went to college with him probably about 10 years ago and we studied countryside and land management together, which is again another reason why I love the great outdoors. But anyway, this is the knife that he's made for me. It comes in a beautiful Kydex sheath, it's got a lovely mosaic pin and an insane finish. So let's bring you closer, have a little look, and then take you back to when I met Robin again after all that time to meet up and gift me this blade. And then we can come back straight to here to the woods, and I'm going to showcase you a selection of kind of knife skills that you can practice for your bushcraft, and it's always a good test for a nice new blade. So hey guys, I'm here with a good friend Robin. We actually went to college together, so what was it, about 14 odd years ago?
Yeah, about 14 years ago, yeah.
So
long time.
Robin kind of let me know that in his part-time he's a full-time tree surgeon, and in his part-time he's actually an aspiring bladesmith and hopes to put all of his work soon on kind of social media and start sharing some of it. And after seeing some of your work, I commissioned you, didn't I, to make me a blade. I'll let you explain a little bit about it, because you know, your craftsmanship speaks, and I'll bring the camera a bit closer soon.
Made out of 1075 high carbon steel with a sabre grind, that's my preferred edge.
Yeah.
And it's got about a 17-degree secondary bevel, which I prefer
over a Scandi
grind, because like I was saying to Liam before, it's quicker to sharpen because you're removing less material, and
absolutely,
it's cuts finer as well when you're shaving the wood. It's not as robust as like a 22 or a 20-degree edge, but it
just gives you that little bit more precision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's got like almost flint knapped, scaly texture on it, which has been gun blued to help prevent rust and for looks and stuff like that.
Aesthetics, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, the mirror finish on that edge is it's so good. And stainless steel pins. 5mm at the top, 6.5mm stainless steel mosaic pin at the bottom, and it's got a nice Coke bottle shaped handle. Yeah, so, it fits so nicely in the hand.
It's contoured and stuff like that. So,
because I was explaining to Robin as well, as I'm sure you guys know from watching some of my videos, I normally use a Castron Woodsman, which is quite a short blade, and it had been in my mind for ages to get something a bit bigger and a bit more kind of personal to myself. And Robin really came along at the right time, didn't you? So thank you ever so much.
That's right.
If any of you guys want to get in contact with Robin to get a blade like this made, then just hit me up a message and I'll point you in the direction.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Lovely
Thanks
job.
ever so much,
That's
Robin.
right, mate.
I really
No worries.
appreciate it.
Anytime.
So I was just assessing this dead standing willow here, just looking at it, and actually underneath it, just in that little brown patch just there, I noticed a wasp nest, so I'm going to move over to a different spot now and show you the knife over there. I don't want to disturb these guys. Looks like it's been already dug up or munched into by something, and they're a little bit active, so I'm going to pick up the bag and we're going to shift to a different location just because they're starting to buzz around now. But I hope you enjoyed the clip of me meeting Robin. Now I'm just going to show you a few helpful knife skills that will help in the world of bushcraft. You know, you might want to use them to test out a new knife or just to practice some of your skills, but hopefully you find them helpful and informative. So I found a nice new spot just a few hundred yards away from where I was before, where the wasps are frequenting, and obviously I want to show you this. Just a few little tips and tricks, knife little cuts and stuff like that for anyone practicing bushcraft. But this is the blade that Robin made for me. Really happy with it, and it fits so beautifully in the hand and has a lovely finish to the blade. Obviously this isn't a Scandi grind and I'm still getting used to this, which is I believe a sabre grind. Lovely Kydex sheath. It's got a utility clip on the back here, which just pings open. It's a little bit stiff, you can see there, but then this clips over your belt. So you slide it to where you want it, clip that down, and then that can go straight back. So because I only brought this with me today, I didn't bring a saw. I'm just going to show you what I'd do if I needed to take a bit of timber off of a tree. So I'll start with a piece of timber like this, good solid piece. This is willow, just fell off of a tree in a recent storm, so it's got quite a fresh break there, and I'm going to use that as a baton and hit back on the spine of this knife to get me a nice cut on a piece of a tree, something that I'd want to take off, and then with that piece I can then display a nice cut which is useful for hanging a pot on. So I'm here next to a hazel tree, and as you can see it's got all of these new growths coming out the side, and they're fairly straight. Down here there's a saddle where it meets the tree, and that's generally where you want to try and get your cut. Now obviously without a sword it can be a little bit difficult, but with these green saplings you can just pull them down, and I'm using my knees at the moment to hold them down. That just gives me a clear working space. You don't want to be working in amongst all of those things. So I want to try and get that as close as I can to that saddle, and I'm aiming for a sharp as possible cut all the way down to the bottom here. So I'll bring you in a bit closer while I do this. And I've got my baton here, so I'll flip it around to this end because it's a nice harder hit, and I'm going to firmly grab the knife, and I'm going to first start by just making a hit upwards from underneath and pull that out. And now I'm going to go in from the top here. It's going to give me a clean as possible cut, and then I'm going to use that just to cut clean. And so you can see the cut is nice and clean there, and what we can do is just try and trim that back a tiny little bit more. And I'm happy with that. So this is really cleaned up nicely. I just took off another branch that I just caught, and it wasn't worth leaving that on there. So I'm going to put my knife away. Always make sure you sheath it so you don't lose it, really important. And I've just put these leaves up there just to disguise the cut. It's just a little thing that I do. It's always nice not to see fresh cuts on trees. So yeah, let's go process this branch of hazel, and I'll show you another cool cut that will help out hanging a pot. So I've got my hazel branch here, and what I'm going to do is just take off all these branches. Now obviously with a knife you want to always work away from yourself, especially with something as sharp as this. So it's just a good idea to take these in a good sharp action completely away from yourself. I'm doing it to the side of myself here, so there's nothing there that can get caught. Probably is easier to work down the tree, or up the tree rather, so all the shoots are going that way you get the most tension and resistance on there, and you can get a nice close cut. But you can do it the other way. You've just got to come inside the branch, obviously not towards yourself. You can take those nice clean cuts off all the way down to the main branch. And I've left myself with the hazel stave. Not very straight, but it's got a nice thick bit at the end here, which is the bit that I want to display a few cuts on for you. And then it's got a nice little whip here, which could be useful for something like a pot hanger stuck into the ground. So let's start off by taking a little bit off the end. What I want to do is start making a load of incisions around the area so I can then break the stick. Now you can use a chest lever grip, which is a grip really close to your chest in this kind of position, and do that. I find it easier to work off to the side again using my thumb as a bit of a kind of pivot point. So I'm pushing in small cuts around this stick, rotating the stick, and I'm maintaining the same angle. And then I'll turn the stick around, locate the same position. So there's my cuts here, you can see under there's my cut, my initial cut, and then I'll marry that up. So I'm taking out a wedge, taking out a segment. You can see as I go round, 4 cuts, takes out and leaves a kind of square end. So that makes a nice blunt end, which is really handy. Let's say if you're putting that in a pack or something like that and you didn't want it to puncture. Really, really handy. Just using the tip of the knife there to get nice small cuts, but precise. And again, that's flattened off really, really nicely. So onto this cut, that's going to be handy for hanging a pot. The idea is that on this, normally you'd have a fork. So for example, you'd have a stick that looked a bit like that. Today, for this demonstration, because I'm not using it as a pot hanger, I don't need that. But if I did, I'd have found a suitable branch with a fork in it. That means I can hang a pot. Now of course, if you only had a straight stick, you could still hang a pot. You just have to do 2 of these cuts and have one on the thicker side, much deeper, so that your wire for your billy can, for example, could hang on it. Probably wouldn't work too well with anything with a wide handle, but nevertheless, really useful. So what I want to do for this cut is basically create an X. I'm going to create an X, and I'm going to hollow out 3/4 of the X to leave a V, which I'm going to undercut, which will allow us to hang things. It'll make more sense as I do it. So I'm just rocking the blade here, and you could do this on a surface if you wanted to, like the floor. So I'm rocking the blade to create a deep cut, like so. I'll then turn the piece, and then halfway along that cut, so from here to here, I'll marry up and create an equal cut the other way. That's given me my markings out. Now what I'm going to do is move to a harder surface and just hit these in a tiny little bit deeper, or just use pressure to cut down. So I'll come to this, just a harder surface now that I can push down on, and I'm just going to reiterate those cuts. And I'm quite happy with how deep that is into this stick. I'm then going to do the same here on the other side, cut down, and then I'm going to remove this section at the bottom. So I'm going to remove this part, I'm going to remove this part, and I'm going to remove this part, and I'm going to do so by making a series of cuts up to meet that other triangle at the top, making sure not to go in to that top triangle. So you can see I've already taken off the bark in that area. I can turn over the stick, and I can use my thumb, and again that kind of pivoting, pushing motion with my thumb. I can turn the stick again, and I can do that again. Now what I do like to do is get to this certain point and just work backwards and forwards to create a dish kind of shape, using my thumb again to act as a kind of lever to push with. I'm making this quite undercut here, just for the sake of ease. you don't want to go too thin. I'm just using the tip of the blade to get some really nice intricate cuts there near that triangle, and I'm holding it really firmly so I get a precise cut. And again, that's got a nice lip under there now. You can use the back of the knife to remove the bark if you want, which shows that it's got a lovely right angle and it's going to be beautiful for striking a flint and steel. I'll do that just so you can see. So there we have it, guys. That's just another useful kind of cut exercise for bushcraft things, and that can be hung, for example, on a stick like so, and if it had the fork on the bottom, you could hang your pots on that. So you heard me mention earlier the chest lever grip, and I just want to go into a little bit more detail about that. It's one that's really useful, you know, for all sorts of things, and the reason it's so useful is it gives you such great control and such great power. Now the idea is you hold your blade normally in a certain fashion, normally like this. With the chest lever grip, you rotate the blade to face your knuckles, so the point is leaning out like so. You then grab the knife and you hold it like so and turn it, and then you use your chest. This arm tucks the working piece under the arm, and this piece uses your chest to push while this holds it straight. So for example, really powerful grip. So that's one if you're cutting around people or in close proximity to people, or if you're doing some work that you need a little bit extra power on. You don't want to be cutting off to the side and straight into someone. Obviously never really good to be doing that with a knife anyway. You know, your bag could be there, your tarp could be there. The last thing you want is to be cutting unnecessary things or people. Tom from Back Garden Bushcraft, one of my really good friends, displays this technique in his bow drill making tutorial video, which I recommend you go checking out. Absolutely awesome. But yeah, just another little grip that might come in handy. So I hope you've enjoyed. I really enjoyed using this blade. I think it's a work of art, and hopefully Robin is tempted to make an Instagram and a little store where he might start doing some of these custom, because at the moment it's just a little hobby thing, and I was really honoured for him to have made one that's going to hopefully come with me on many trips and become my new personal bushcraft blade. So thank you, Robin. Thanks you guys for watching. Hope you found some of this helpful and interesting. I look forward to seeing you next time, where we might share a bit of food by a campfire. Speak to you soon and stay safe.